Welcome to Wear Your Cape to Work, a podcast hosted by Project Insight. We believe that project and program managers are the real superheroes of every organization. We want you to hear their stories so you can be inspired to wear your own cape to work. This week on Wear Your Cape to Work, Project Insight's own product manager, Steve West, shares about the early days of project management, when extranets were the cutting edge and building a place to share files felt revolutionary. He's going to talk about the leap from desktop tools to the browser and why many resisted at first, and how project collaboration ultimately beat out siloed software. We'll dip into the PMP and artificial intelligence and a number of other topics and why Project Insight has developed the features that they have over the years. Hey, thanks for joining us, Steve. We're so glad you could take time out from work to be on the podcast with us.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be on here.
Wonderful. Well, want to do a little rewind here, Steve. Project Insight has been an organization for 2+ decades. Looking back at when you started the organization, what problem did you set out to solve with the tool?
Well, that's a great question. Many people probably don't realize, but Project Insights, the company that owns Project Insight, started as a software development firm for, .com startups and actually also just regular corporations in and around Southern California and even worldwide and nationwide. We had some projects outside the area. And around that time, collaboration was not that easy. Our team was in California, then a client would be where they are. And we just, like a lot of people, like a lot of companies, we started building what they were calling extranets and places to share documents and instead of sending them back and forth via email. So it all kind of started organically out of just the pure need to be able to collaborate better and run the business more efficiently. And that's how it kind of got started in the beginning.
What was the first version able to do?
Well, that's a great question. So we did have a product that was mostly about, file sharing. And then later on, we added scheduling. And it was kind of an internal tool right after 9/11, really. Around then, we added the scheduling, we added all, we had our file sharing and document management and all that start at first. And then we started adding scheduling and Gantt chart and all of that. And that's when we decided, we have a product here and this is something we can make for other people as well. So it was really, I don't remember if we did time tracking right out of the gate or not. But we certainly had scheduling and task management and all the fundamental basics of project management working.
Help me with offices at that time, because I wasn't working in a corporate setting at that moment. So when you say internal, you're talking about managing, just documents between people, like where things were kept. And then what was the challenge that made you think, we got to do some scheduling? We got to add that piece.
Well, part of it was driven by customers asking us to do the same kinds of things over and over again. There were a lot of jobs that we would do that weren't necessarily just e-commerce. So we were doing a lot of things like, I think the term was extranet at the time, where a company like Hilton was one of our customers at the time, would need to have a place to go where their dealers could get data or those kinds of things. So we're like, hey, we need this for us because any project we do, we don't want to have a meeting. And the video conferencing wasn't as good in the beginning. I mean, I remember it was WebEx or whatever. I mean, it was okay, but you needed a place for documents to go and for everything to be in one spot so you could actually conduct a project. And that's why we were doing those things, not just for us, but for clients were asking for same kinds of things. So it's really the fact that the same thing was being asked for. And this is before we had, Dropbox and all those kinds of tools out there.
Yeah, you almost have to set the stage. We have so many people in our audience that have never lived without any of those tools. In fact, for our audience, if you want to go back to the dark ages a little bit more, listen to our episode with our NASA project manager. They were building the space station before there was even the internet. Like, documents were couriered between buildings and all meetings were in person. I mean, this stuff is a really different way of working.
So, really, I have in my head this kind of Venn diagram, right, Steve, of these offerings and these offers, and you're doing all this dev, and then you realize that there's such an overlap that you're doing for everybody that let's turn this into a product and run with it then, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the goal of the company was always to make products. It was never to just be a service company. That was just the means to an end, because we are an organic company, and our talent was here. We tapped it to do work for hire, and then we used obviously any excess. That was really our funding mechanism to build the product in the first place, was the fact that we were making things for clients. They're paying us, they're getting value. We're taking that value and building a product. And then, we had a fairly long transition between where most of the revenue came from just doing services to actually the product kind of taking over. And of course, there were all these doubts too at the time, like, web browsers weren't that great at the time. So there was a lot of, desktop versus online. Obviously, the browsers have improved so much that has gone all away. But when you're sitting there in 2002, 2003, why would you use a scheduling engine on a browser when the browser is not as rich as the desktop is? And even today, Excel is still more rich than Google. Well, I guess Google Sheets is close, but the browser just has limitations that the desktop doesn't.
Right.
Well, pre-Chrome, right? I mean, you're talking about,
pre-Chrome.
Times before Chrome, again, talking about, envision this world where, Chrome doesn't exist is maybe hard for people to do.
Yeah, I mean, not even Google yet, although I guess Google right around the turn of the century. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what people use today, like, it was a big concept to say, oh, I'm going to actually run a business application in a web browser. That was a challenge for us in the beginning. The pitch would be like, well, it's your desktop tool, but in a browser. Like, we had to literally explain to people what it was, and I think that Facebook and really the explosion of social media, like, trained the rest of the world to be able to do this.
That's a lot of technological transformation throughout the tenure of the organization. Does anything stand out to you as having the most profound impact as to how, where we are now compared to where we were then?
The most profound? I mean, maybe we're about to enter that with the AI. I'm not sure. It's really hard to pin it down to any one thing, because the technology really did evolve. Again, probably the advent of social media made a biggest difference, because it turned I mean, maybe Amazon too. It's kind of the convergence of all of that technology did allow for the world to be trained on doing things online and trusting that and going with that. And that was a real key and was pivotal, because again, before, in the beginning, it was just early adopters. It was hard to wrestle away someone's desktop Microsoft project into a browser when the experience for that project manager was negative compared to, like, if you're an individual and you're like, oh, well, why would I want to use this online tool? It's harder for me to do my thing myself. Well,
right.
If you can look beyond yourself and say, well, now I have my schedule online and all my people are updating their tasks, and I no longer have to go ask them one by one and keep the schedule by myself. I can collaborate on my schedule. Well, now it doesn't matter that the desktop experience is richer, because I'm saving time for me by having collaboration. So the fact that people got trained on using browsers and phones, and like, again, this predates the phones, but using just even your desktop browser to do business, that was something kind of transformational. And we didn't have to do anything about it. It just happened organically because the industry moved it.
We need another audience pause here. I really think there's a lot of people that have never really even considered, that work didn't involve necessarily a computer for you or browser, the internet, that project work happened much differently. It'd almost be like, just think about doing anything project wise without your computer right now.
Yeah, I mean, when I got out of college, I remember I interviewed for places, and you'd go physically for the interview always at that time, and if you saw no computers in the office, I'm like, I'm out of here. This is
not gonna
these
work
guys
here.
are done.
It's not gonna work. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I like what you just said. These guys are done. These guys are done, right? If you have, it's kind of like the topic that we're talking about, AI right now. Like if you don't have AI at all in your platform, you're done. I mean, whatever the quote
I actually think
is.
this transformation is less extreme than that one, because everybody already is on your computer, and it's not like it takes, you can just load up ChatGPT tomorrow and start using it, and now you're quote unquote using AI. But literally people from 1990 to 2000 went from, I don't need a computer because I can just, fax and call, like, do things without a computer, door to door. That shift from 1990 to 2000, I think, was more than even what we're seeing with AI. I know there's a lot of hype around the AI, but we're talking about people not using computers at all to now we're using computers.
Right. Oh yeah. I remember when we got our first kind of desktop in the house, and my dad had no idea what to do with it, and I was glued to it immediately, right? Because it was very clear what that is. So and maybe this may be the answer, all of the AI talk, but where do you see technology taking project management and really work execution over the next 10, 20 years, Steve?
Well, I don't know that it fundamentally changes project management, because as quote unquote smart as AI can be, it's not going to make decisions for you. It's not going to handle, the nuances of dealing with your team and getting things done and managing your boss and all that. It's just, the AI is a tool, just like having Gantt charts on paper in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, to Microsoft Desktop scheduling tools, to online scheduling and management and tools and collaboration. So I think it's really going to enhance your job by making it more efficient, but it doesn't really fundamentally change what project management is.
That's an interesting point. Like project management as a practice. Is that going to change due to AI, like how that actually transpires? I think, we've talked about how our tool at Project Insight was built with the consultation with project management professionals, and the whole idea of PMBOK principles and how those are employed in project management, and how there's a foundational choreography of how project work just happens. That's an interesting twist on how that piece doesn't necessarily change.
No, I mean, you still have to identify, have a charter, bring your project online. What are you trying to do? What are the goals? What are we supposed to do? You might ask ChatGPT for common goals for a type of project, things like that, but you still have to make a decision that this is what we're going to do. This is the scope. This is the budget. This is the risks. This is who the stakeholders are and the customers of the output, and here's my team. I'm going to assemble a team. I mean, AI isn't going to go out there and can motivate your team. There's a lot to do in project management that's not just a computer.
No, I think that's fair. I just listened to a TED Talk, and that's kind of what the principle of it was, right? The humanness of being a human is still going to, need to be there regardless of the other enhancements that you can make. But I think what I'm hearing, at least, Steve, is that there's still enhancements that can be made by these platforms, right? Kind of in the help me build my WBS or help me identify what potential risks are. But it's not going to eliminate the practice or kind of dramatically change a lot of that, is what
Spoiler
you're saying.
alert,
Right?
those are on our roadmap, by the way, for Project Insight.
Yeah, that's fair.
Both of those AI.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Everybody who's
No, I
listening,
mean, for
just
sure.
hold your breath. It's almost here.
Yeah, just more tools in the tool chest. And, obviously as a product maker, our goal is to build really useful AI things, not just here's something that doesn't really work that well. Because we all know that AI it's a very imprecise tool. It's powerful, but really imprecise. And a lot of what people want the project management tool to do is precision. Like budget needs to be precise down to the penny with some of our customers. You're not going to be able to get AI to really help with those things, but having it analyze your data, having it look at the data and analyze it, or give you a summary of what does this data say, those kinds of things for sure are coming, and they're here and coming and going to improve as the tools mature.
Yeah, I think that makes me think of this idea of, often project managers have so much data that's thrown at them, right? How would you recommend a project manager to not feel like they're drowning in all of these numbers and pieces and kind of make sense of what they need to focus on?
Yeah, that's a really good question or point. Having worked with a lot of customers trying to onboard them, sometimes people do get caught up in the minutia of what they're trying to do. It's like building a schedule, for example. There's a fine balance between too little as far as your work breakdown structure and too much. And maybe the AI can help with that and see, this looks like it may be too detailed, but it's, again, like, I don't know that the AI can tell you what you really need. It's just going to help speed things along, and is the way I see it. And the tools, like for us as a manufacturer of a software company or product, we have to package that data in a way that the AI models can understand it and that can provide value to customers that are using our tool, which that's the real big thing. Anybody can just throw up a form and have AI do some stuff, and then you're going to get some stuff back out. How useful is stuff? You need to figure out exactly what the output's going to be. And that's maybe why, we're trying to take a real thoughtful approach when it comes to putting that into our tool.
And it comes down to the project manager too. I mean, I just like to nod to that superhero group. The whole reason we have this podcast, you are, as a project manager listener, you're being taxed to bring your C-suite or leadership or business, leaders, some of this information, translating data into informative strategy for you, right? And you need to know what it is that you want to measure. That typically comes from someone, on high telling you this is what we want to know about our project work. And the project manager has always been in that pickle of, okay, I've got to run around, even pre-browser version of project management. I've got to amass these data points, this information, and somehow translate it into the picture, for the organization. And Project Insight's been trying to make that process easier for project managers all along so that they can quickly, real time, dynamically interact with data points that match what their leaders want to see and present it. So that's a cool goal that you guys have had.
I like how that also combines with what Steve just mentioned, Trina, on the thoughtfulness of not just throwing a chat bot on there, right? Like anybody could copy and paste what GPT is doing and say, ask it anything you want. And is that actually going to be relevant with the data sets that you're looking to do? Steve, as you're thinking of, the product of Project Insight as a whole, do you have any non-negotiables or any golden rules that you set as far as like our product strategy?
Nice.
the number one thing is that we have to have a tool that works for our customers and works for real project managers. That's when our vision the whole time, our company happens to be probably more specialized in addressing the professional project manager's needs versus some of the other tools that raised a bunch of money and got a lot of hype. We're not actually trying to sell to like every single business in the world, like real estate offices and whatnot. When it comes to any feature in Project Insight, it's really trying to find what's most useful for customers that actually helps them do their job better.
Yeah. And you here now you're helping a project manager, but every project manager in every organization has a little different twist on how this has to happen. We all know that you have a unique workflow in your company, right? So I think that would be one of the other non-negotiables that I've seen at Project Insight is that everything is typically really configurable to what your unique process might be at your organization. And we're committed to helping you get that aligned to what your goals are rather than just a cookie cutter model.
Well, definitely. I mean, every client that comes on has, it's like if we look at the current reports or the reports they want to provide, they're never the same. They're close sometimes, but they're not exactly the same. And that is one of the reasons why we have made Project Insight very configurable. So obviously we'll take that same approach with AI, and we have customers that say, we don't want anything to do with AI because our data is super private. So you don't have to use it. It can be totally not involved in your workspace, or you can say, we're all gung ho. We want all the AI and, you can have it. So we're going to do the same thing that we do with all our features, which is you have to turn it on and you can get to configure it. I just don't see a change. To me, it's not like this is much different than what we've been doing, other than the fact that we have a new powerful tool in the background that we can use to be more creative in the way we're going to do some of these features.
No, that makes sense. I mean, to Trina's point, I feel that too, right? We're working with the, real serious project managers who are delivering on these large scale projects or programs or portfolios, throughout the world, and working within their nuances. I mean, and we've worked with so many different customers over the years. Are there any stories of success or their results that stand out to you as that was a wonderful engagement or something that even surprised you?
Yes, there's a lot of customers that are very, I think sometimes we hear people say that we've saved them a week's worth of work with like a push of a button. Like I'm thinking, I don't know if I should name names, but I'm thinking of a specific client, where they, to do the reporting output for the executives just was taking people like a ton of time. And, now they hit a button and in 5 seconds they get their PowerPoint, or I guess it's a Word doc, all output in the format that they need it to. Though, the fact that it's just so dramatic, I think, is the issue. I'm not surprised that people find a value in going online. And it depends, too, if they're coming from, no tool to a big tool. But this one was coming from a tool to a tool. So it wasn't like... Right. I'm going from no tool to tool. If a customer is going from, Excel, then, that can be huge. Another specific example is 30 projects. A team member would have to go into 30 different Excel files to update status. Mm-hmm. Now they can just go right off their work list, done, and they're done. So, and that was a case where when they were looking at our tool, then all the team members saw how much easier their life was going to be. The team members demanded the tool, which sometimes that's not the case. A lot of times the project managers are driving that, hey, we need this tool and we need the team members to collaborate with us. Well, the other flip side of that was the team members saw how easy their life would be from what they have to do because they didn't have much of a tool.
Yeah.
They're the ones that forced them to proceed forward.
And those sophistications that you have in the tool are actually what make you not have to revert to those spreadsheets. Like, it's great. Yeah. Most project management tools automate a lot of things, but if you can't automate all of it, or take out the manual part for all of it, you still have those little ticky tacks, a Post-it note here, an Excel sheet there, an envelope or a folder on SharePoint. But the goal of Project Insight is make sure we can get everything customized so that the least amount of manual work can happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to pull in, and our tool does connect with other project management tools like Jira and DevOps and Trello and those types of tools. We want to get all the projects into one view for your customer, but at the same time, we're not just the reporting engine. We have our own scheduling engine built in too. So just trying to pull all that together is just a huge savings. And it's something that we see a lot as we onboard people, because our job here is to make sure that every customer is successful. Yeah, and that's the difference between when we first started this conversation. Here we are, 2002, 2003, 2004, whatever. We're a brand new tool, bringing online project management online. Most people weren't using computers, and it was like the project managers got the vision maybe, but then the team members were like, what, you mean I have to go log in and be accountable to something? I mean, the world has changed and people see that and do that. So that's a lot easier now if, people get it, like, hey, I'm going to use a system for project management. People by then were used to using a system for CRM, and there's been a million billion CRMs over the years. And people understood that, and they also knew, oh, wait, we're not going to do our accounting on a piece of paper. People knew that by 2000,
Right.
But people didn't know that collaboration on projects shouldn't be done on paper. They just were. It was much more resistant, I think. And now you've seen in the last 20 years, people are like catching on with collaboration and all that that's computerized. But again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people literally, they're given a computer in their hands, and that's all they do now.
Right.
Like the young people, it's like they're just entrenched at 2 years old in front of an iPad, so it's a different world.
For better or worse on that one. I agree though, Steve, right? The first thing I got from the organization, here's your laptop. Here you go. Plug it in.
You get a computer
with it, right? So, are there any, we're talking about, project management. We're talking about PMBOK, that hardcore project management book of knowledge that comes from PMI. Are there any principles within that, or just general project management, that you have seen often ignored by customers that we bring on?
Well, yeah, a lot of it, I think has to do with being under-resourced. Meaning everybody's stretched these days to do things. So a lot of times people will, I'm not going to spend time like figuring out exactly what I'm trying to, like my schedule, even just the schedule sometimes, I'm not going to figure out my schedule up front. I'm not going to know my budget or put a project plan together. So, and these are the things we talk about in those webinars all the time, is just sometimes it seems like you can't do them, but you really should just do something cursory or quickly to establish like, what is our goal? What is the outcome we want to do? Even if you're using Agile, I mean, every sprint is literally a tiny project that you have. Here's what we want to accomplish. This is how long it's going to take us to do. This is what we want to see when we're done. Stepping back and kind of looking at that and spending the time to do that is something that people skip all the time. So,
well, and there's a real cost to doing that, right? I mean, you're still going to have to do those check-in points if you just front-loaded that work. I think project management would say, get that planning, get that initiation in order to, deliver right.
Yeah, so. I mean, many of our clients many of our clients already have a lot of discipline, so it's not really an issue. I'm just thinking that sometimes I think maybe smaller companies or, people new to project management, they just worry about like what's 2 or 3 feet a couple days ahead of themselves, and they're not really looking at what are we trying to do like as well as they could be if they would just have more discipline for some of the, I don't want to use the word rigor, but the best practices. Following the best practices should actually save you the time. It seems like it won't.
I'm going to drop a link to our PDU webinars that people might want to see. I'll put that in the show notes in case you're looking for some more best practices or guidelines. And then tune into one of our episodes from season 1 with Jeremiah Hammond, who is a PMBOK master and really makes a great case for why to know what those structures should be and how you can use them without it being a burden or, like you said, too rigorous or too confining.
And I think if people are intimidated, they should just do some of the basics. Keep it simple. Just write down your goals before you start. Write down who the stakeholders are. Write down like 3 objectives, and then you can measure that at the end, even for a small project.
Yeah, I think that actually leads well into maybe the starting part of this other question I have for you, Steve, which is, what does healthy portfolio governance look like to you? Is that starting, there at kind of first things first of documenting what you're planning on doing, or what do you think on that?
From a portfolio standpoint, I guess you'd need to be doing that across your whole organization to deal with that at a portfolio level. I think trying to standardize, and this is where the tools might help you, because if everyone's using the tool, then you can get common language, common statuses. Again, if you're not using any kind of tool, you're probably cobbling together a report in Excel, like here's what we're doing across the board for the whole company or the whole portfolio. You said portfolio. So having that discipline across the entire organization from if you have a PMO office, having that PMO office able to train even the non-project managers who run projects, because there's a lot of people out there that are running projects that are not professional project managers. Just teaching them a couple of the basics and getting your arms around the reality of what you're trying to accomplish across the board is a really good first step. Getting it all in one place or close to one place as possible. When I say getting it all, like all of your projects entered, what are the dates? What are the goals? What's the health of these projects? So that you're being honest with yourself. Because if you don't do that, then what happens is your organization might be focusing on the wrong priorities, which is not an ideal outcome.
Oh, that makes complete sense.
You've met a ton of superhero project managers over the course of these many, many years working with Project Insight. Is there some common denominator, some thing that you think each of them does, that you might say to our audience, you should try to adopt this in your project management career and your journey? I've met a lot of great PMs. What is that commonality?
Oh my goodness. That's a hard question. Is there one common that their superpowers are all over the map? You have some that are very great with their people. Then there's some that are really great with keeping things organized. Is there a common thread among them? I guess the one common thread I would say among all the superhero project managers is that they're all passionate about what they're doing and they're dedicated to their job. I would say that's probably, if you're not really into what you're doing, it's really hard it's hard for you to be motivated. It's hard for you to motivate other people. So if you're, and that could be a superhero in and of itself, but I think even if it's not your strength, everybody should strive to being self-motivated and motivated for their company, and then motivated to help motivate their team. That's probably the most important thing, I would say.
And you have to know those initiatives of the company. What's your company trying to do? If you can get behind that, not only you'll be motivated, but you'll also be able to translate that to the team. Like, this is what we're trying to accomplish. These are the initiatives we're trying to tie all this project work to. Let's, get there together.
Yeah, definitely.
One of those PDUs Trina's going to drop in the, notes here is exactly that. The start with why, making sure that everybody's aligned. But I think that's a really good centerpiece in that Venn diagram, Steve, of this is, everybody feels passionate about what they're doing. They're organized in being able to say, this is what we're going toward, and then gets their teams to be doing that. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like our vision is that we are here to automate the project manager's job using obviously all the technology. We've been doing it the whole time, not just because AI is here, but we've been self-driving project management, from the beginning. And we're here to do that and make everybody's life easier. When I say everybody, make their work life easier. We're not going to make everything in your life easier, but we can make your life easier by making the tool actually help you do things that take you a lot of time. And that's where, and most software that's what it is. But if you remember what the vision is and why am I even here this morning? Like, I'm here to make this product better, to help a customer, even if it's help just one customer. And that's something I think that, you want your whole organization to like exude that. And if you're running a project, that's what you want to exude. Like, hey, we're here to make whatever it is we're trying to do, put a rocket into space, open a health facility, implement a computer system, or build a software product. Like, all of that is about helping somebody else. And if you think about it that way, it's a lot easier to be motivated because you're not, that's why I'm here. I'm here to help, No,
I love that. I think those are wonderful parting words as far as that's concerned, as far as advice. Steve West, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your very busy day to spend it with Trina and I. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks. I obviously, we've had a lot of great people on here. I'm just hopefully able to reflect what the other, the real PMs. I'm not really just the PM person, but those you out there are the superheroes, and we're just here to help you guys.
We're so glad you could join us today. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Steve.
thanks.
Thank you for joining us today on the Wear Your Cape to Work podcast, hosted by Project Insight. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, or leave us a comment. If you subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or other favorite podcast channels, you'll receive notifications of all of our new episodes. We'd also love it if you would share Wear Your Cape to Work with your network of PMPs or anyone else who might enjoy the show. Project Insight is an online project and portfolio management software that helps companies connect project data from across all of their teams and software tools so that they can make confident decisions about their business. Our website is projectinsight.com, and there you can find many resources for project professionals, including free PDU webinars, as well as a place to register for a demonstration or a consultation with one of our success teams. Thank you once again for joining today's conversation, and most importantly, thanks for wearing your cape to work.